Wer steckt eigentlich hinter den KI-basierten Apps? Passiert das alles automatisch oder stecken Menschen dahinter?
When you open ChatGPT or scroll through Instagram or even use Google Maps, the seemingly instantaneous response actually rests on a vast human infrastructure. Before any AI system can function, it must be trained on data that has been prepared by human beings.
I myself used to be a data worker. I worked on different projects from different big corporations, and some of these corporations were from Germany, and many of them were from the US. If you prompt ChatGPT to give you more of illegal things, for instance, if you write that perhaps you are stressed up and you want to die, and you want to ask ChatGPT to tell you the easiest way that you can use to kill yourself, it won't be able to give you that information because we trained it not to give such kind of information.
So workers read text and mark offensive content so a chatbot does not say something harmful. They often watch videos of violence and flag them for removal so that our social media feed looks clean. These tasks of data annotation, content moderation, and microtasking are the necessary human foundation on which the apparent autonomy of AI systems is built, and it is performed under conditions that the end user rarely sees or considers. This workforce remains largely invisible. It includes young graduates in small towns across India, women who work late into the night on their phones completing household chores and care work responsibilities, and even workers generating body movement data for machines to recognize motion and gesture. And similar kind of patterns of labor exist across global south jurisdictions like Kenya, Philippines, Venezuela. These workers carry the annotation, moderation, and classification task that underpin machine learning system, often for wages as low as $2 per day. This is sometimes called the digital supply chain. And just like the supply chain for our phones, it is long and opaque and often carries very little reward for the people who actually make it.
Bei meiner Kleidung weiß ich ja, dass viele Menschen an vielen Orten der Erde dafür arbeiten und dass die Arbeitsbedingungen auch oft sehr schlecht sind. Aber bei KI, das ist doch alles digital, oder? Wie sieht das für die Menschen aus, die in der Lieferkette der KI-Tools arbeiten, die ich täglich nutze?
And again, now the biggest problem that workers were facing was more of mental health challenges. So if you are reviewing very gory content or very graphic content and you are not given enough counseling, then you might end up having very crazy nightmares. And some of my colleagues, many of us who are working on content moderation, had problems in sleeping at night. So you'll go to sleep and then you start dreaming of the things that you are working on at work.
Sadly, this is not an isolated case. Workers at these firms, many of them women and from marginalized communities, are routinely exposed to child sexual abuse material, graphic violence, and extremely disturbing content. They are often hired under vague job titles like processing executive or data solutions associate. They sign contracts that say that they are going to perform data annotation. However, they don't find what work they will do unless the job has started. And beyond the psychological toll, the material conditions are also very precarious. Contracts are typically short, under a year, and sometimes seasonal. Workers are classified as freelancers, which excludes them from job security, social protection, and the right to organize. Again, pay tends to be piece rate, meaning that any break results in lost income. And if your work is rejected, even without fair cause, there is often no grievance or appeal mechanism available. And usually they work under non-disclosure agreements, which prevent them from sharing or discussing what they have seen, what they have worked on, even with friends and family.
We also had very short contracts of 3 months. So you can imagine you have been given a contract that runs for 3 months, and during this time, if you speak about the challenges that you are going through as a worker, and then after the 3 months elapse, the company can just decide not to renew your contract. It was a way of silencing workers not to speak about what they are going through.
Betrifft das Frauen nochmal anders?
Yes, profoundly, and in ways that go beyond the individual. The data annotation workforce in India is heavily feminized. Many Indian startups I encountered in my research actively sought out women who are first generation graduates from rural and tribal communities and with care responsibilities at home. Companies specifically recruit women because they can offer flexible work. But flexibility in this industry almost always means a job without adequate safeguards and poor pay. Women on platforms on which work comes in, mostly from Western countries, work through the night because that's when tasks are available. So they do their care work in the morning, during the day, and then data work from midnight to early in the morning. And the psychological burden of content moderation falls disproportionately on these women as well, because the content that they moderate is often violence against women. One woman reported that after months of reviewing child sexual abuse material, she felt increasingly disconnected from her own body. She left the job and 1 year later told a journalist how she feels like a stranger in her own skin. And because many of these women come from oppressed caste and indigenous backgrounds that translate to acute economic vulnerability, they feel that they cannot afford to say no. This economic vulnerability is part of what makes the exploitation possible.
Ladies will sometimes try to cope up with all this content, but again, it will break them up sometimes. And in most of the cases, they will not report to work. And the moment you don't report to work, that means you are going to get less pay.
Die Arbeit hinter KI hat also einen Preis, den jemand anders zahlt. Es scheint, als ob die Risiken im globalen Süden liegen und der Gewinn im globalen Norden. Und wer ist dafür verantwortlich? Welche Firmen stecken eigentlich dahinter?
The structure of this industry is designed to diffuse responsibility. Big tech platforms typically do not directly employ content moderators. They contract with a large outsourcing firm who subcontracts to a smaller firm who recruits workers through yet another intermediary. And by the time you reach the actual worker, there are approximately 4 or 5 layers of distance between them and the company profiting from their labor. This is sometimes called the cascading contract structure. And it ensures that when something goes wrong, then the platform can say that it's not their worker and hence it's not their responsibility. The geography of this system is also very intentional. Profits are concentrated in corporate headquarters located in the global north, while the risks are borne by workers in the global south. This arrangement reflects a type of digital colonialism in which the extractive logic of earlier empires has now migrated into data.
Yeah. So as workers who are doing content moderation or those who are training AI models, we used to compare these with kind of colonialism and slavery. Technology should not be built on exploitation. Technology should not be advanced on discrimination of workers based on their geological positions where they are located. Companies developing AI technology have a responsibility to ensure that workers are first prioritized than anything else, than profits. I want AI users to understand that behind every model, behind every tool, behind tools like ChatGPT, are millions of people who are labeling data, those who are cleaning the information. But again, these very people have been left behind in terms of their human right protection and even the recognition of what they are doing. I would urge the public or the people who use these tools to also try to demand accountability from the tech corporations.
What I hope for is a more conscious and informed relationship with AI, one where users, developers, and decision makers work together to ensure that tools are built and deployed in ways that genuinely serve the public interest. I hope we can move towards an approach where human cost behind our digital lives is acknowledged and mitigated so that innovation and dignity go hand in hand.